At the heart of the battle, where the blood of the innocent flows, where only the monstrous survive.
Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the two-parter, The 1,000 Worlds and The Heart of the Battle, written by Nicholas Briggs. This is the second story and discs 1 and 2 of the Only the Monstrous box set, volume 1 of the War Doctor series, featuring John Hurt reprising his role as the War Doctor from the Doctor Who story, The Name of the Doctor and The Day of the Doctor. This concludes the adventure that was started off in The Innocent. However, The Innocent is more of its own story, whilst these two they contain the overall plot. So this is accounted of a two-parter, with The Innocent kind of being a prelude to this adventure. Now, for those of you wondering, The Innocent was split down the middle between fan bases. Some people really liked it, and some people found it a very weak entry to the series, although they still loved John Hurt's War Doctor and how he was portrayed in that adventure. It was just the overall narrative they had an issue with. And if you watched my video, The Innocent, you would know that I understand both points of view, but personally I really love that story. But here is where the series gets good. We have epic stakes, we have Time Lord conspiracies akin to the Deadly Assassins and the Invasion of Time. We have Daleks finally, and John Hurt giving one hell of a performance. There's not really much to talk about, like, behind the scenes. In fact, I think this volume was so well realised that Big Finish actually announced 3 more. Actually, they announced 4 more volumes, but sadly John Hurt passed away before the 5th one could be released. I'm not too sure on that. Maybe they were all announced at the same time, or maybe they were announced one after. But I swear off by memory alone, which I will state could be mistaken, that after this release, the Big Finish announced 4 more volumes. So, yeah, on to the adventure. This is the cover for 1,000 Worlds with John Hurt's grumpy face there, and we have the Heart of the Battle with Alistria there, played by Jacqueline Pearce, most commonly known for her role in Blake 7 and in the Doctor Who story The Two Doctors, where she plays the Angram, I can't remember her name. Yep, lost me. And like always with these Big Finish CD covers, I've printed out my own DVD cover. This one, I've taken the image from The 1,000 Worlds. It's not the best looking one, I will admit. From a distance, it kind of looks really weak, and you can only just kind of make out John Hurt's face in a darkness. But close up, it's alright. I think it's just the image is a bit too dark, and the image quality, it's very pixelated, or very blurry anyway. And I don't know, something about it just didn't come out the way I intended. So here's the spine if anyone is interested. Very nice. And of course, here is the back. Very nice. And you got the Heart of the Battle cover there, which actually works a lot better on this very landscaped approach. So, we talked about the covers, we've talked about the setup of this story. On to the adventure at hand. So, the story actually starts off with a pre-credit sequence kicking off right after with Rejoice talking to her father about how she's sad about the Doctor leaving and has to go back, and she explains that the Doctor was taken by his own people, which then leads into the credits. A really weak opening, in my opinion. I think the story would have worked a lot better going straight into the Doctor's segment, but it is a nice reminder that Rejoice is still a character in this adventure. This does continue on from The Innocent. In a sense, it's kind of like the reverse of a cliffhanger. Instead of something that leads into the end, it's a connection to the previous story at the start. Very interesting. So the Doctor goes to Alistria's office, shall we say, where he finds out what's been finds out about this mission. He gets into a small little group with Alistria's. There's no credits on this one. That's very helpful. With Alistria's general, I can't remember her name, and the two soldiers the Doctor saved during the flashbacks of the previous story. And Alistria basically proclaims that a Time Lord known as Saratrax was actually a very fundamental aspect to the war. And he actually discovered a null zone, a zone that when time travelers get stuck here, they cannot escape from this time zone unless with an extremely powerful time traveling device like a TARDIS. So it's a very risky move to get into this small little pocket of time. And basically they've learned that this character, Saratrax, has found this little null zone and now is stuck there, and they've tracked that there's some Daleks in there. So they want the Doctor and this crew to go and rescue Saratrax. It's basically setting up a typical war story, like a mission with a small bandit of people going out to rescue someone on a rescue mission. I like the feeling that this is now more akin to a war film. Something like, if I think of the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann's Doctor, as the cinematic Doctor in terms of the stories that they tell with him, John Hurt's War Doctor is obviously the Doctor of War. He is the Doctor whose stories are mostly inspired by war films, or at the least have that war sentimentality and written in that sense, in style, with a lot of characters talking in military tactics and all that. So that's the mode of this story, and this really pushes that, which means that this story is incredibly focused in what it's trying to say and what it wants to do, which is a very, very handy thing for a 2-part adventure, especially in this new 60-minute 2-part format, which is very akin to the new series. So this would be the first traditional 2-part, though we have talked about some Paul McGann 2-parters. They were typed in as part 1, part 2. This has got different titles, so that's a bit of a ramble. But the Doctor, being the Doctor, doesn't play by the rules, and so he actually escapes from this group and is like, I'm nobody's lackey, I'm nobody's soldier, I fight on my own terms, on my own thing. And so he takes the TARDIS and leaves, but he gets interrupted in the time vortex by some Daleks and actually crash lands in this null zone. And so he's gone into one of the planets in the null zone and gets held as a prisoner, as a slave, mistaken as a slave, where he learns basically the situation. It turns out the planet he's landed on is, what's it called? Keska, the planet from The Innocent, years after he had saved it from the alien race in The Innocent. So what has essentially happened is that the Time War has actually caught up and fought on this planet, and now it's time for Keska to be part of the Time War, where the Daleks have given the Keskans enemies resources so that they can get through the barrier, easily allowing to conquer them and turn them into a slave labour race. And the Doctor, hearing us from one of the slaves, basically proclaims that he has fought the Daleks in the past. He has fought them many times, and he has beaten them many times. And we get a small little scene in which the slaves decide on whether they should risk helping the Doctor get up and disguise himself as a slave leader, or just pretend, or just out him and hope that they can survive just a little bit longer. But after discussing it, the Doctor actually goes up to the former capital of Keska and pretends to be a slave leader, where he when he meets one of the leaders of the other alien race that's similar to the Daleks in a way, genocidal maniacs, who have actually become friends with the Daleks. And it's also here he meets another slave leader, one who recognizes him as an old friend that she helped heal many years ago. Rejoice is now an old lady played by a different actress. Again, there's no credits on the back here, so I apologise, I didn't catch her name, but this moment of the Doctor and Rejoice reuniting is very very impactful, especially for the emotions of the Doctor. I also like Rejoice in this story, not to have anything against, like, I'm not saying like it's because of this new cast, the old actress, should I say the young actress, didn't do a good job. They're both great actresses. I just think, written-wise, because now we're in a situation where her planet is taken by war and suffering, and she's also a lot older and wiser, and that kind of more baseline character kind of works more efficient here, and it makes her feel a lot more wise and sentimental. I think the character works a lot better here and helps us to understand her viewpoint. She goes on to explain that her father, after the barrier came down, he actually went up to try and make peace, but was quickly murdered and sent into the nearest sun when this race then came down and enslaved them like that. And so the Doctor, disguising himself as a slave leader, actually gets into like this feast with the Daleks and this other alien race, where the Doctor gets introduced to the Dalek Prime, a new ranking Dalek individual. Now, interesting thing to note in terms of canonicity, later on in real life release order, that we get introduced to another Prime Dalek in other stories. I can't remember which. I believe it's in the War Master series. And the Prime Dalek is said to have been the first ever Dalek to be made by Davros, the one that appears at the end of Genesis of the Daleks. Whether it's supposed to be the same Dalek, I'm not quite sure. It just seems like the names are the same, that's all. Maybe one's the Prime Dalek and this one is the Dalek Prime. I'm not quite sure. So take that as you will. In my head canon, I would like to think that this is the first Dalek, just to keep the name in simplicity's sakes. And there seems to be some sort of like this festival where all of these races are actually like come in to like organize more conquering of worlds and stuff. Around here, Rejoice explains that the Daleks have actually conquered hundreds, thousands of planets in the null zone, where each planet has a massive drill structure ready to drill to the core of each planet, to which the Daleks plan to drill into the planet, and the Doctor doesn't know why. It's also here that he finds Saratrax, although not as a prisoner, but as a right-hand man to the Dalek Prime. And the Doctor's confused. He's baffled by this. He's supposed to be sent on a mission to save Saratrax, but no, it seems like he doesn't need saving. And a Dalek identifies the Doctor as a Time Lord, but before it can identify him as a actual Time Lord, Saratrax comes in, asks the Doctor like who's he getting his orders from, to which he says Alistria, and this character's like, okay, good, you were on this peace mission with me. Peace mission? What? As the Doctor gets taken out to another room and learns that, according to this guy, the Daleks and the Time Lords in this null zone have a peace treaty. That the Daleks will not fight anymore in the Time War if they are allowed to conquer this null zone with these 1,000 planets as they so please. Basically, if you rule and conquer and murder these people as you please, just don't hurt anyone outside your bubble. This is now Dalek space. This is now the rest of the universe's space. So, and the Doctor's absolutely baffled by this. The Daleks don't do defensive, they only do attackive. This peace treaty is a parody and it's an abomination. It's clearly the Daleks are going to portray them as at first chance they get. But this character, Saratrax, he's so into this cause that he genuinely believes that the only way to stop the Time War is a peace between the Time Lords and the Daleks, put in this massive twist on this story, which is a very great twist, which changes the structure of the story. It's gone from a rescue mission to a convince this character that he's in the wrong story. During this scene, during this adventure, we also get a back of the ranch storytelling with this adventure with Alistria's, the rest of the Alistria's team, in which they come to this null planet to try and find Saratrax and the Doctor. At one point they encounter a Dalek, and the Dalek shoots one of the soldiers that the Doctor had previously saved. But for some reason, they refer to each other as brothers, which takes Alistria's general by surprise. This doesn't seem like something Time Lords say, especially in a special op. Like, it sounds more like a small pact, like a cult in a way. And she's slightly curious about it, and this character also doesn't seem to fit the archetype of a very experienced soldier. At every chance he gets, he surrenders before something convenient or the general character shoots in by and saves the day, essentially, for them. Very, very bizarre. But anyway, they get into the capital, and the Doctor basically realizes that the general character, Alistria's character, also has no idea what's going on, believing that they're on a rescue mission, which goes up against Saratrax's motive in that he believed that Alistria is a part of the team and actually is helping them and has brought this group of people as sort of ambassadors for the Time Lords. Obviously, the Doctor and this general character have no idea. But the other character, one of the soldiers, that the Doctor saved was actually working for this small group of people trying to broad this peace. As the Daleks chant peace in our time, and that is the cliffhanger for only the monstrous story, The Thousand Worlds. So on to the heart of the battle, where the Doctor tries to convince Sarah Trax that what he's saying is just absolutely stupid. And there's some really, really great moments. This is also, I want to talk about something about Nicholas Briggs' writing. For those of you who have followed Nicholas Briggs as a writer, know that he has two main forms of storytelling. He has simple characters with a complicated plot, or he has a simple plot with complicated characters. This is his second style of writing. It's a very simple plot. You've got this basic war story where they try and save this character, and then thanks to the twist, turns out that this is actually the Doctor trying to convince this one guy that this peace treaty isn't going to work. Simple. It's something that we've seen 100 times. But the characters and the narrative really push this story forward. There's a great moment in which Elistria says, "Can I speak?" And Sarah Trax is like, "I don't understand why you want to. You have no bearing on this situation." But the Doctor's like, "She does! Her planet was wiped out. The people were destroyed by your actions of making this so-called peace treaty. You would honestly let her people get murdered and become enslaved just to keep this stupid, silly, ridiculous peace treaty of yours. So she deserves every right to talk." This is something which I want to talk about because it's one of those things where in terms of the War Doctor as a concept, this Doctor who renounces his name and is now a soldier, this doesn't come into line with that. If this was the Doctor as we would imagined it, he would have just taken the situation off everyone's hands and would have just killed as many Daleks as he could. But as John Hurt as the Doctor, this as just the Doctor, this one's played by John Hurt. This is such a fantastic scene, showing why John Hurt is not only a fantastic actor, but also showing how Nicholas Briggs understands the Doctor. That Nicholas Briggs understands the Doctor down to a T. And we also get this is where we get the sad story where Rejoice proclaims about her father's peace treaty and how that ultimately failed. And Sarah Trax doesn't see the connection, doesn't understand why she's telling this story. What relevance does this have? And the Doctor gets angry. He's like, "Can't you see there is no peace between a genocidal race that's hell-bent on just destroying people? These creatures are similar in motivations to the Daleks, and they would just not give up like this. This is ridiculous. They're space Nazis, for crying out loud." But after that kind of fails, the Doctor makes a deal with Sarah Trax that if he can prove that the Daleks up to no good and will not honour the peace treaty, will you help me stop the Daleks? To which Sarah Trax agrees. It's like, "We are people of peace. We will listen and understand." So Sarah Trax takes this group of Time Lords and Rejoice to the Daleks' high command, in a sense, in that the Daleks' communication system is actually faulty, and Sarah Trax pretends that the Doctor is here to try and help them fix their communication systems, to which he does, in a sense, but accidentally reveals the Daleks' main plan, why they are setting up all these drills. The Daleks' plan is to set these drills under these planets so they can use them as giant bloody bullets to fire these 1,000 worlds at light speed at Gallifrey. That is overpowered as hell in terms of a strategy and plan, and right in kin with the Daleks. And after Seratrax discovers that the Daleks were not going to keep their peace treaty agreement, does then the Doctor and the rest of the Time Lord crew get in contact with Illustria, where all these Time Lord soldiers come into the null zone, breaking the walls of the null zone, and starting the conflict again in a way which allows the Time Lords to have a much upper hand, as this is the Daleks at a very weak state in their empire. And Rejoice actually gets murdered, she gets killed during this conflict, and the Doctor then teams up with Illustria, and they have a little discussion about all this events, and she proclaims why she sent him on this mission. You see, the Doctor saved the two soldiers prior. She knew that they were part of this ridiculous peace treaty cult, if you will, and she didn't want this to get out. She didn't want people believing in this cult-like status, because she believes that it will ruin morale. She just wants her soldiers to fight until every last stinking Dalek is destroyed. So basically she's really bloodthirsty, and she's really hell-bent on just murdering as much Daleks as possible. Essentially the other side to the extreme, with Seratrax working for the neo-Nazis, at least trying to understand their point, whilst Illustria is just hell-bent on destroying them with no real moral compass of what gets involved. And because the Doctor saved them during the flashback of the Innocent, she thought that the Doctor was secretly part of this team, of this cult, and so she didn't know whether to trust the Doctor. That's why she didn't tell him what's going on. And so the Doctor, she basically planned to take the Doctor and his two other crew members into the null zone, where hopefully they would just die. They would just die, where Illustria then already had a plan to basically destroy the Daleks in a sense. So basically the War Doctor's role in this was just quickening up her process. He was basically used by Illustria. And the Doctor basically is like, it's great knowing you, but I really hope I never get to see your face again. Love that line. And we end on the line I said at the start of the video, where the Doctor will be found at the heart of the battle, and only the monsters survive. And that's the two-parter, the 1,000 Worlds and the Heart of the Battle. Overall, this is the War Doctor in a war movie, and it's something which I don't think I really wanted, in a sense, but I think it was something that was needed when depicting a time war. It's very militaristic, and I'm not too picky on displaying the time war. I think, especially now that we have John Hurt during this era, I think it's actually fair game to play around with the time war. And this story shows a great example on how that militarized version of the time war it can actually be used to great advantage. Nicholas Briggs has written a great script here which understands its characters and underlines its plot with many merry twists and turns and emotional impacts. And so, with that, I highly recommend Only the Monstrous. It's a great way not only to start getting into the War Doctor, but also a great way into Big Finish. For those of you who want to get an inwards into Big Finish, check this one out. Highly recommend it. So join me next time where we will be tackling the second volume as the Doctor fights Satanists. That's not even a joke! So join me next time for Legion of the Lost. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!